Greetings, fellow survivors. Today I'm going to reveal some tips and tricks for newer Project Zomboid players that will ensure you not only will survive, but thrive in this post-apocalyptic world. With over 500 hours of gameplay experience under my belt, I've learned some invaluable strategies that have made all the difference in my survival journey. So get ready to enhance your skills and increase your chances of living longer in Project Zomboid. With such a large map, you may find it quite intimidating deciding on a good base location. First off, there are several items you want to look for when picking your base as a newer Project Zomboid player. The first item that I look for is easy access to different bodies of water, lakes, rivers, ponds, etc. This makes it so much easier to be able to drink, and it makes it infinitely easier to water all of your plants once you set up a farming area. This way, you won't have to use the precious water that is in the water barrels that you have plumbed into the sink. Those should be used for drinking and cooking instead. Being relatively close to a body of water also makes a great secondary or primary food source. Second item that I look for is close access to the various different resources that are currently in the game. Some examples of what I look for is driving time for looting locations, forested areas so that I can collect lumber for reinforcing my base, and foraging so that I can get different items such as rocks, twigs, and bugs. Good foraging areas are also a perfect place for setting up traps for rabbits, mice, and birds. Once you have found a good place that is not too far from water and with good resources nearby, you are going to want to fortify your hideout, barricade windows, and place doors to keep the zombies out. If you are in a fenced-off area like the gated community in Riverside, you may want to build up some airlocks to prevent the game from spawning zombies into your safe zone when you open the gate to drive vehicles in. Even better is fencing it off completely and leaving the vehicles outside of your base. Are you enjoying this video so far? Make sure you leave a comment below with what problems you are having in Project Zomboid, and make sure to like and subscribe while you're at it. For this next tip, I've noticed a few people in the comments talking about the confusion they had with the Moodles as beginner players. So I'm going to go over those and try to help you understand what they mean and what you should do when you see the different moods. Moderate exertion. This moodlet reduces your melee damage by a whopping 50% at the lowest setting. It also decreases your attack speed by 7% and increases the chance of tripping by 10%. Each additional level of exhaustion reduces your combat damage even further, among other stats. You get this moodlet by fighting with inefficient weapons, running long combat times, so my best advice is to walk for the most part. Use running as an ultra big-brained chess move for when you are actually in combat and you need to put some distance between you and the zombie train behind you. In terms of inefficient weapons, that is a lot to cover in a single section since there are so many different types of weapons, so here are some weapons not to use. Number 1. Sledgehammers. 2. Musical instruments such as the electric guitar and electric bass. 3. Barbells. The next moodlet I'll be covering is tiredness. It's a crucial one. Drowsiness decreases melee damage, also by 50% like exertion. Your vision cone also narrows, and tiredness slows down your endurance regeneration. The next one I'll be covering is hunger. Hunger reduces your healing speed, and it seems to only affect your healing speed. The next one, panic. Panic reduces your critical hit chances and reduces your melee damage at the higher levels. This can be eased off by keeping beta blockers in your inventory and taking 1 or 2 pills once your panic starts to affect your melee damage above a slight panic. One thing to remember with moodlets is you need to prioritize your needs. You need to make sure you're well rested, well fed, and hydrated. If you pay attention to these things, this will help you keep most of these negative moodles at bay. So let me know in the comments if you want a more dedicated video for these in the future so I can dig deeper into them. Up next, we have resource management. As everyone knows, food quickly rots and turns to mush when not refrigerated. In Project Zomboid, food will quickly begin to rot once the power shuts off. It is this reason you need to decide what to eat first from your looting runs wisely. In this case, I'm going to recommend you eat all the fresh food you can find and get your hands on first, and save the canned goods when you need it most, like while you are waiting for your harvest to come or during the winter, if you underestimate how much food you really need to survive. The same goes with soda and chips. These are really high-calorie foods, so I would recommend that you save them until last. Having these high-calorie foods will save your butts when you have looted looted the entire area for the food and have no vegetables left when winter arrives on the long survival runs. I know some of you may struggle with how combat works in Project Zomboid, so I'm here to help. In Project Zomboid, there are lots of common positions that you may find yourself in. In fact, almost an infinite number of positions. But today, I will be covering 3 of the most common. This one, and this one. The first position is all too common of a way to get overwhelmed and end up dying, but there's a strategy to this. In order to get yourself out of this situation, you have a couple of options. Option 1 is to run away into a forested area and plan to come back when you are more well equipped to deal with it. Option 2 is using objects such as cars, walls, windows, doors, or in this case, a gas station pump to split the zombie ball into smaller sections or get them distracted by the reflection in this weird shiny thing. The strategy with the gas station pump or car is you are splitting the ball up so they form a nice little line again, which gives you enough time to hit 2 or 3 of them, and then run or walk into the other direction and hit a couple more until they bunch up again. Once you do this for long enough, that giant ball of zombies will slowly diminish, eventually leaving you all alone once again. Hand in hand with combat strategies comes stealth tactics. These strategies are often used combined in order to slowly clear out an area that you have future plans for, large basing areas for example. In the case of the previous tip's second example, you want to lure each zombie in one by one. In the beginnings of the game, while your stats are poor, you don't want to lure in any more than 3 at a time, or you will end up with the giant ball situation. Once you lure the first few away from the pack, you should walk backwards away from the pack, also while crouched, in order to not lure any more in by sight. You also want to bring them further away from the pack, as to not lure any more in from the sounds you are about to make. Remember, try and do this technique while most of the zombies' backs are turned, and only while a few are facing towards you. The ones that are facing away from you will not see you, and they will stay where they are unless provoked by a sound, such as bashing zombies or shattering a glass window. The last tip I have for you today is surviving the elements. Eventually, you will live long enough to make it to the winter. Before this freezing cold season arrives, you want to make sure that you have several layers of warm clothes, such as long johns, winter coats, or fireman's gear. If you don't have this gear, you are risking catching a cold, and if this happens, you will begin to sneeze loudly, and that doesn't bode well for your long-term survival. And there you have it, survivors, 6 tips and tricks for the newbie Project Zomboid player. Let me know in the comments if this video helped you and where you are still having difficulties. Make sure you subscribe so you stay up to date on more tips, basing locations, and more. Stay safe out there, survivors. Until next time.